Red is a lovely colour. It's so bright, energetic. I particularly love pink, which is just a lighter version, really, just red and white together. It's the first colour of the rainbow. It measures from 750 to 620 approximately nanometers on the electromagnetic spectrum. On the colour wheel, the way the colours are arranged, red can either go more towards the orange side, this really lovely orange here, or it can go towards the kind of pinky purpley side, this sort of colour here. It's really nice actually. Red is a very primitive colour, so it's quite raw, it represents heat, and it's very, very high energy. In society, high energy can mean heat, lust, and good fortune, but it also can mean anger and danger. It can actually be quite an exhausting colour, so if you've got a room and you painted 1 or 2 walls red, or even 3, it can be quite tiring actually, quite draining as a colour. So early pigments of red actually came from like minerals, rocks. For example, ochre is a family of clay earth pigments. The colours from ochre can range from kind of sort of yellows all the way up to browns, and then also orange as well, and of course red. Red ochre was the first, or at least one of the first pigments to be used by ancient humans. It dates back to around 150,000 years ago, which is quite impressive actually. It used to be ground down and then used as a pigment. The colour vermilion and Chinese red actually comes from cinnabar, which is a form of mercury sulfide. Cadmium red is actually a byproduct of using zinc ore. Red lead, or minium, is an orange red, which is produced by roasting white lead. The crimson dye, called carmine, actually comes from female cochineal insects. These insects are native to subtropical America, and what happens is they are collected, they are then dried out, they're ground down, and they're mixed with various chemicals to then produce this really nice red dye. The insects produces carminic acid, and that is what is responsible for the color that it gives off. This dye has been used by humans way back, even back far as back as 700 BCE, which is quite far. It was extensively used by the Incas and the Aztecs as a dye for fabric. And then in the 16th century, when Europe basically took over the world, they brought the dye over to Europe in the 16th century. It became quite the commodity. It was traded all over the place, and because it cost quite a lot to produce, it was very expensive, and so only the elite actually really used red dye for their purposes. So for example, to produce half a kilo, it actually takes approximately 70,000 insects. Synthetic mass-produced pigments were made from around the 18th century, and this obviously reduced the eliteness, if you will, of the colour red, as well as many other colours. This then competed with the cochineal trade and effectively drew it right down. However, once it became known that synthetic versions of pigments actually are derived from things like coal and petroleum, and we're actually consuming these things, we're eating them and putting it on our faces and stuff, it then became prominent for natural dyes to return to the market. Today, natural dyes of carmine has a few different names. So it could be called carmine, it could be called natural red 4, or it could also be called E120. It does cause quite a severe allergic reaction in some people. And Starbucks is one of the companies that quite famously wrote about the fact that they used this and that they were going to reduce it and actually stop using it completely and replace their red dyes, this red cochineal dye, with more natural versions. However, the dye can still be found today in yogurts and cakes and lipstick even. It's actually quite a stable color as far as dyes go. It doesn't fade very easily, and it is a desirable alternative to using dyes and pigments that are made of, coal and petrol. Currently, Peru leads the way in carmine dye production, actually bringing in huge amounts of their economy and bringing in income for many of the farmers in Peru and their families.